Of all the things to consider when buying a game, box art may be low on your list, but back in the day, it was a deciding factor while window shopping, the venerable cover of the book being judged. You know how the old adage goes, so let's take a look at 15 games with awesome box art. Unlimited Saga. There are probably worse criticisms that a game could receive than, quote, ruined the Saga franchise, but that's what Unlimited Saga did. You wouldn't know based on the game's elegant box art with its butterflies and flowers rendered in gorgeous watercolor. It was all the more disheartening at the time because Square was releasing classics like Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, Drakengard, Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, and Kingdom Hearts. Unlimited Saga stands as proof that even Square could mess up big time. And not for the last time either. Armored Core 5. Whether it was the Japanese or North American box art, Armored Core 5 looked incredible. This was a game about hulking mechanized behemoths at war. Developed by From Software, you'd probably think it's a stellar game. Unfortunately, no. Armored Core 5 wasn't terrible, mind you, receiving praise for its complexity. However, it was also panned for being hard to get into, repetitive, and fairly lackluster in terms of gameplay variety. Diablo III. All of the pieces were seemingly in place for Diablo III to succeed. Yeah, its aesthetic choices invited some backlash, and yeah, the fact that it was always online was annoying, but one look at that box art of Diablo's smoldering visage, almost daring you to return to the nightmare, was enough to convince us that everything would be fine. Cue server errors, a terribly designed loot system, lack of replay value, and other problems. Thankfully, Diablo III would find its footing thanks to Reaper of Souls, which also had some amazing box art. Evolve. For as much rightly deserved criticism as Turtle Rock's Evolve got, the box art was on point. A single behemoth footprint in the ground. Nothing more, nothing less. It was almost Jurassic Park-like, except with less content and more microtransactions. While it's a shame that Evolve died out, the box art will hopefully live on. Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves was pretty popular at launch, but pretty far from being a great game. The fetch quests, simplistic combat, lack of variety, lack of customization, all of it was just one big yikes given how long it was in development. However, and you knew this was coming, that box art though. You can see it as a crew of pirates emerging from a dark cave to stormy weather and a kraken assaulting their ship. However, all of the elements are cleverly arranged to form a skull with an eye patch. Truly stellar design work. The Saboteur. Pandemic Studios' The Saboteur used color in intriguing ways, representing Nazis with bright red colors, while occupied areas were a stern black and white shade in-game. This extended to the box art as well, which saw the iconic Eiffel Tower caked in red as the silhouette of protagonist Sean Devlin stands mysteriously by. It was pretty cool, except the actual game suffered from shabby gameplay, lack of polish, and terrible voice acting. Destiny. The theme of Destiny was portrayed excellently on its box art, that of adventurers, gunslingers, and warriors embarking on an adventure into the unknown. The Traveler loomed ominously in the background, and there was a futuristic Wild West vibe to it all. Of course, at launch, the game was a mismatch of pathetic storytelling, inane plots, embarrassing dialogue, repetitive missions, and bugs galore. The gunplay was great, and it improved over time, but the early going was rough. No Man's Sky. The lone traveler of Hello Games' massive space sandbox is dwarfed by the mysterious Atlas. Various flora and fauna surround him as spaceships casually dogfight in the sky, and the horizon of another planet peeks out. It's simply gorgeous, but then again it also belies the terrible bugs and repetitive gameplay that awaited at launch. Massive updates brought improvements and long-requested features, so in the long run, it all worked out. Ridera The Sky Soldier. The Wii box art for Ridera The Sky Soldier looks decent, though it feels safer than the Nintendo 3DS version. The latter embodies the sky motif much better. Our hero Ridera soars through the air, floating landmasses and endless sky teasing adventure. While the game did manage to pull off its flight mechanics well enough, annoying combat and camera issues dragged down both versions. Not even Sonic creator Yuji Naka could save this, unfortunately. Animal Crossing Pocket Camp. As a mobile game, Animal Crossing Pocket Camp has several kinds of cover art that hint at all the wonderfully varied and colorful things. What it doesn't hint at is the sheer amount of monetization. Starter packs, leaf tickets for growing fruit faster, and all the timers required to get anything done, along with the constant nagging to purchase things, put a damper on what could have been a chilled out experience. Stranger Things 3, the game. Box art is probably a slight misnomer for Stranger Things 3, the game, given how predominantly digital it is. However, it does have the title art for all of its download pages, so that technically counts. And despite the repetitive gameplay, terrible presentation, and utter lack of the show's charm, it has a distinctly retro vibe that emphasizes the core premise. Anthem. The theme of BioWare's Anthem was always stronger together, reinforcing the ideals of teamwork and humanity rising up together. The box art reflected this in its own way, with each javelin occupying its own space and background. It was the whole that stood out, rather than each individual sum, and the stark white backdrop for the text tied it all together. As for the game, well, what more can you really say at this point? Left Alive. It's a real shame that Yoji Shinkawa's beautiful artwork, which looks even better in the final box art, is wasted on Left Alive. The art conveys that Metal Gear aesthetic, emphasizing its characters without overwhelming the player. What was one's reward for buying into the experience? An utterly terrible mix of stealth and action with poor performance and AI. Just stare at the box art and pretend the game itself is a bad dream. Vain. The bird on the left draws your glance, almost enough to ignore the one in the foreground. Your eyes are guided towards a weather vane of sorts where other birds are congregating. Stark, simple, and yet utterly beautiful, Vane's box art is highly underrated. So it's a shame that this is one of the worst titles of the year, with its terrible controls and unimaginative puzzles. Great box art just cannot hide a terrible game, folks. And that wraps it up. If you like what we're doing, please consider subscribing to our channel. We upload new videos daily. Also, don't forget to switch on the bell notification icon, that way you don't miss out on any of our videos.